I don't know where Atiku is making this statement, but anyway, that's on the table this morning as we talk about it and try to make sense of it all. We'll also be looking at the new immigration policy. Niger Republic bars Nigerians using Ecowas passport. It gets even more interesting. Oh well, these are the conversations up for discussion this morning. Well, do well to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. And on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. And do well to make good use of the numbers scrolling on your screen. That will come up very, very shortly. Save that number up. With that number, you can engage us on conversations held here. You can also make short videos of yourself, 1 minute video of yourself, analyzing issues and sending it down to us. And so you can be part of the conversation, be part of the show from wherever it is that you're watching us from. All right, let's get into a few issues, a few stories that Nigerians are talking about. The Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has inaugurated its first ever barracks. Now, this one inaugurated 35 years after its establishment. Now, this marks a significant milestone for the Anti-Narcotics Agency, providing housing for its officers and enhancing operational efficiency. The initiative aims to improve officers' welfare and strengthen the agency's fight against drug-related crimes in Nigeria. Okay, now my opinion here, this is coming at a time when we're talking about police leaving the barracks and residing amongst the people. You know, we've had situations where the police force themselves have felt detached from the people, and it has degenerated to a point where they tend to see the people as, you know, they tend to see themselves as them against the people. And some of us have been clamoring for a shift whereby they are giving houses in communities. So they have, you know, that your next door neighbor is a policeman. That in itself will help curb crime. But now NDLEA is saying, look, let our officers live in barracks. Oh, well, I don't think that's the best thing for now. But this one has been kick-started already. And we see how this one pans out, honestly speaking.
All right, Moses, honestly speaking, like you said, and this is a new development. It's a new one coming from Buba Marwa himself. But I think he gave a reason for that. And the reason he gave is because of the operational difficulties, the hazards, you know, encountered by operatives of the Nigerian the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, you know, the operatives. He said quite clearly that, look, some of them, because of the hazards, you know, associated with their job, some of them have been traced to their homes and murdered. Not just murdering them, but even killing members of their families, wives and children and all of that. So he thinks that putting them inside the barracks will clearly make it easier, you know, or it will keep them safer from the harm that their job normally predisposes them to. So what he's trying to say is like, I mean, it will be difficult for, you know that in the drug industry, it's a very big cartel. It's a very big cartel. There's always a pushback, you know, against those that fight crime, the operatives, the government itself, people from the top. So what he clearly says is that, look, if they are quartered in a particular space that is well guarded, there is no way outsiders will infiltrate and kill somebody. Even if you don't get the operative, if you get the operative outside, their families will be secure inside the barrack. I think that's the whole idea and behind trying to quarter the operatives of NDLEA within the barracks. But Moses, like you said, we are trying to move away from barracking, if there's anything like that, you know, because police people, security agents are supposed to live. They're supposed to be embedded within society so that they also understand. You don't even need to know that this person is a police officer. You don't even need to know that this person is an agent. But the fact that he lives there, he also gathers intelligence from what goes on in the society. That is the essence. But I think that this is more like a minor departure from the norm. I don't really know where to place it. Because of security, you now have to quarter them. And the edifice is a very massive one. about how many thousands of buildings, that is supposed to take care of the operatives of NDELA. Let's see how.
I'm trying to
let's see how it works out.
I'm trying to figure out how many personnel the NDLEA has and how many of them can they put in barracks all over the nation. Or are we talking about the high-ranking officers and then the other officers?
The high-ranking officers are not even in the. They are not in the field. The people that are more at risk are the junior ones, that go to arrest and all of that, that stand on the road to search and discover a catcher of drugs and all of that. So they are the ones that are, of course, the high-ranking officers will not live inside the barracks.
Okay.
Moses, I don't know why you're smiling, but that's exactly the reason that Bamawa gave. And I'm trying to figure out how this thing is going to work, essentially. And one thing is this, too. Why would you have to locate it in Adamawa State? He's from Adamawa State.
Yes.
So it's also about the politics of, citing facilities and all of that. A certain governor comes into office and says, look, this university, the permanent site is not good. Let us move it to a better place. And that better place happens to be his hometown. His home place. It happens all the time. That was how we got Abia State even got the state university when we were carved out of Imo State, because they gave considerations to General Ike Nwachukwu. He built the university's permanent site. And now he's from Isukwuato. So they said Isukwuato traditionally is supposed to be part of Imo State. But because of that, they now brought it, into Abia State and all of that. Sam Mbakwe, the hero, also when Imo State University was conceived, they had a campus in Aba and some other place. But he now took it to Madonna, some part of Okigwe, where he comes from and all of that.
So it's a Nigerian factor.
It's a Nigerian factor. It's a Nigerian thing. It's an African
civilization
thing.
Comes to a place when
Kwame Nkrumah did the same thing in Ghana too. It's an African thing.
Let's not drag Ghana into Nigeria's issues.
No, it's an African thing. It's an African thing.
Well,
that's my
civilization
point.
comes to a place when a native of that place gets into power. Anyway, let's move away from that one and talk about another issue. This is not a good one, really. This is something that we have been clamoring against, but it has persisted because certain individuals have seen it as a money-making venture. Well, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has sealed a 3-star hotel in Kwali, Abuja, over alleged illegal activities, which include sexual exploitation of underage girls. During the operation, 11 minors were rescued, and the hotel owner was arrested, while other members of staff fled. Well, the hotel was reportedly a hub for trafficking-related crimes. Now, this action follows a similar raid last month in Abuja, where 9 pregnant girls were rescued from a suspected trafficking operation. It's not the first time stories like this are breaking. People take advantage of those in need, and it's an age-long trade, human trafficking, sexual exploitation. But I think NAPTIP has its work cut out for it, and they should do more in clamping down on individuals that do such trade, and also the society themselves. Now, I know for sure that certain people get into these things because of lack, the poverty in the land. So you have a situation where certain individuals know that, look, they don't have anybody to cater for them, and they see somebody who decides to provide accommodation and who decides to feed them, and then they decide to give themselves up. So it also rests on the table, on the lap of the government, to ensure that, one, education cuts across every strata of the society. At least primary, secondary education is provided no matter what. That should be done. And also, certain levels of primary health care should be available. If people know that when they are sick, they can get treatment. The desire to rely on somebody that is giving them hands out will be greatly reduced. So government needs to play its role, and then the society too will play theirs by exposing those that perpetrate these crimes. We see a situation whereby, 11-year-olds 11-year-olds are used as sex toys, and it troubles me, those that even have a desire to engage underage. That's troubling, honestly speaking.
Moses, honestly, is quite troubling, and he has spoken a lot, but I will agree with you up to a point, then I'll start disagreeing with you. When you say it's, if you say it's because of lack, it's because of poverty. All of us have not become gigolos and prostitutes, There are still some decent people that lack. I think it has to do more with loss of values, value orientation. But one thing again, you said that it's an age-old thing. It's always been there, since lifetime. At least from the time that we started forming society as we have it today, despite the fact that we have made progressions. It has to do with value orientation. And when you talk about giving people at least secondary education, there's a higher level of this thing that is called, in our local parlance, they call it hookup. Hookups are practically graduates. So would you attribute that to lack of education?
No, it's not the same thing.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not the same.
It's the same thing. It's just that these people are quartered.
How is it the same thing? Some of these people are, the majority of those that are trafficked are doing it against their will. Hookup.
No.
Hookup is largely the majority.
They do it out of ignorance, not against their will. Out of ignorance. Some people don't even know that they are being trafficked, and they end up in that mood. So my point is, when you talk about giving people decent education, at least up to secondary education level, I'm saying even some of these people that are involved in this thing also have secondary education, even beyond that. But I think you are trying to limit it to the people that are caught, captured, now used as sex toys, and pregnancies and all of that. These pregnancies, when they deliver, the children are taken away from them.
I absolutely know that.
At that point, it becomes they are taken hostage, because at that point they don't.
Yeah, so it's not the same thing with the hookup.
No, the hookup is another angle of it.
Okay.
Another angle of it.
Okay.
All that I'm just trying to say is that all of us have not become gigolos and prostitutes because I lack too. I don't have everything. I'm not trying to paint myself as a saint. A lot more people are. You see young girls hawking. Hawking pure water, sachet water, hawking a gala and all of that. Those people, they also know that there are other means, easy means to get things in better things in life. But they choose to do the right thing at the right time. It has to do more with, I think it's part of the value orientation that National Orientation Agency needs to work more on. And NAPTIP too. NAPTIP should also, I think, expand their mandate. They are doing a very good job, if you ask me. But they also need to do more by bringing awareness, to people, young men and all of that. Young men, women in society. That is the only way we can get better. And let me leave that out for now, because there's a direction I wanted to travel, but let's not go there.
Well, you rightly said it's a national orientation issue. We need a NOA to continue the campaign. The only campaign I see now is on switching off electricity, your lights and other things. I think they should do more.
And even defending government.
Defending government.
That's not their core responsibility. Their core responsibility is to orientate Nigerians, because clearly we have lost our values.
Oh, yes, we have.
Values that we grew up with, that we
have
knew as
major
Africans.
issues.
Human values that, Africa is still the humanity center of the world, if you ask me. The average Westerner is gotch. They don't see you in the morning. They don't even greet you. They don't care. They put up their nose as if or they just wink. That's the smile. That's the good morning. But an African will see you on the road, shake hands with you. Good morning. How is family? Eku anad, eku bado, eku, all the ekus. They will give you all the ekus. That's the humanity Africa brings to life.
Yes.
And it's a good thing. So we shouldn't lose it.
We shouldn't lose it. Yes. And as I was saying, it's our values have been greatly depleted. I recall some years back, I was having a conversation with a young girl who got out of school. She had spent 2 years out of school waiting for admission. And then, I engaged her and I asked, okay, why don't you just get something doing, get a job? And she told me, yes, that she got a few. She got a job as a secretary to an individual, to a secretary in a company. And then her boss wanted sex. he asked for sex a few times, and she just felt, instead of collecting 25,000 naira at the time, and then still giving in to this man, her friend advised her, why don't you just have boyfriends? You have boyfriends, and if each one gives you maybe 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 each time you see them, you'll make more than 25,000 naira in a month. And I just saw the mindset, and I asked myself, I asked her, like, how do you know what it will take from you if you have 5, 6 boyfriends that would have to give you money every month? They may not even give you money every month. That would take a whole lot from you and what you'll be required to do. But then it speaks to the degradation of our society and the glorification that we have given to sex, and quick money. It cuts across. Both the young men want to make money quickly. They want to go into rituals, Yahoo Plus and the rest. The young girls feel, okay, my body is what men want. Let me make them pay for it. So, there's a lot of reorientation that needs to be done, and it has to start now. Because if it doesn't start now, we have bigger problems ahead of us in the future.
Moses, I like the word S. Boyfriends.
Boyfriends.
Not just boyfriend, but boyfriends. Anyway, let's move on to the next trending story, which is an explosion occurred at a shop selling locally made firearms in Zamfara State's Talata Mafara Central, resulted in the loss of 4 lives and at least 20 people injured. Many traders and shoppers were caught in the chaos, with eyewitnesses describing the scene as chaotic. Now, the cause of the explosion is still unknown as authorities continue to investigate. Well, the incident highlights concerns over unregulated sale of firearms in local markets. Yes, I'll take it up from there. Sale of firearms, unregulated sale of firearms in local markets. Before I even go there, let's even talk about manufacturing. So we have people that can manufacture firearms.
Yes, we do.
And sold in markets.
Oh.
No. Most of that is sold in
firearm markets.
Firearm market. Like they used to have the Baccarat market. If you are very familiar with Somalia, the story of Somalia, the Baccarat market, where the only thing, they even sold APCs there. During the time, Saad Barre and what's his name again? I've forgotten his name. The guy that actually caused the problem in Somalia in 1994. I've forgotten. I remember Saad Barre, the person that took over from Saad Barre and all of that. In 1994, they had a Baccarat market, very large arms market. It was an open thing, And you know how Somalians are organized in hills and clans and all of that. So it was a thriving business. I hope that we are not getting to that level here where we have stop that. I hope we are not getting to that level where we have an open market now in Zamfara State that is already, strained by insecurity. What it means is that somebody can actually walk into that market, pay some money, and get a firearm, whether it is local. Even if it is firearms, whether it is local or because it can also kill. Whether it is the capacity might differ and all of that. But the fact is that it is firearm and security agencies, until this thing happened, I personally didn't know. I know that people produce arms and sell, but not in the open, like we have in a market, in an open market. So it clearly tells you how low we have gone. The descent, to the abyss of insecurity that has enveloped us as a people. And if there is one in Zamfara who tells you that there is none in Borno State, and what makes you think that there is none in Owerri, or even in Calabar, or any part of the country? So it's a big thing, something that is quite big that we need to deal with at this time. Otherwise, if it proliferates in the open, when people talk about Nigeria being a failed state, and I make the argument, look, Nigeria is actually not a failed state, but our fragile state index is very high. It is one of those things. When you talk about security, insecurity, and all of those indices that lead to Nigeria being a failed state, it begins from now. Action should start from now, from the intelligence community. It's a good thing that this happened. Unfortunately, some people had to, something must give. Some people had to lose their lives for us to also know that there's a certain arms market in parts of Zamfara. Security agencies should be on top of their job to nip this thing in the bud before it becomes a new normal for us.
Yes, it's not just the security agencies, government now. You see, government has to play its part. I said this thing here before. There was a time people were, they arrested a family that was into production of arms, but the son, the father, the mother, the brothers and sisters, all of them, I think it started from one of the children there, all of them into production of arms. And I said it here, I said government should rein these people in. There should be an avenue to, those that can be rehabilitated and brought to the side of the government can put in their ingenuity to start producing arms, small arms at least, for Nigeria, so we will stop importation. And this will be controlled. That way, government will benefit from all of this. Now, you said the open market shows how low we have gotten to.
In insecurity.
We've gone lower than that.
Okay.
We've gone lower than that because there's a market for human parts. There's a market for human parts in this Nigeria, in this Lagos. There's a market for human parts where people go to buy human parts. But there's, it's spoken about in hushed tones. So a lot of people want to shy away from that reality, but it does exist. And you ask yourself, how much clampdown have we seen? What is government doing? I mean, there was a time, not too far away from us, an individual was said to have been selling and probably eating human beings. And it was said that his clientele were the high and mighty. Clifford Orji, if you recall Clifford Orji.
Yes, I do.
Wasn't too far away from where we are.
Yes.
So his clientele were the high and mighty. So there's a lot that government should do. A lot still rests on the lap of the government. But anyway, this revelation is a good one, a laudable one. And like you have rightly said, government should ensure that, look, every of such markets situated in every state is, clamped down and closed up. And that will go a long way in curbing insecurity. Some of the guns we see people use are not, they're not imported. They're made here. And they are quite good. They're quite good as well. Oh, well, let's move away from...
Moses, sorry, I think I remember his name, Mohammed Farah Aidid.
Okay.
Very, very popular name in the Somalia debacle. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on to the papers now. Let's look at what stories made it to the cover pages of the dailies. And right after that, we get into the conversation proper. Newspaper headlines here. I have Nigerian Tribune right in front of me. Now, the headlines here read, Bank directors with non-performing insider loans to resign. CBN orders, asks banks to regularize loans within 180 days. NBS explains why Nigeria's inflation rate falls to 24.48% after rebasing. 5 days after passage, NAS adjusts portions of 2025 budget, retains 54.99 trillion naira total. Reps to organize public hearing on new tax reform bills next Wednesday. Probe INEC over delay in conducting over 12 by-elections. And we also have headlines here. Edwin Clark, who passed on Monday night. May his soul rest in peace. Well, that story is right here in the Daily. Edwin Clark, 25th May 1925, 17th February 2025. And those that have gone to commiserate with the family. Oh well. Southwest governors will give Adebanjo befitting burial. Sanwo-Olu, Lagos Assembly crisis. DSS threatens lawsuit against broadcast stations. DSS threatens lawsuit against broadcast stations. All right then. Don't disrupt peace of Niger Delta over mother of all protest. Niger Delta peace advocate warns. Edo Assembly approves death sentence for kidnappers. I hope they don't misuse it. Jonathan kicks against deployment of military personnel for elections. Says only police, INEC should manage future elections. Obi says integrity of election determined by leadership in charge. 789 ex-terrorists undergoing de-radicalization rehabilitation program. And yes, appeal court affirms Oba Adeoye or Olaoye at Asong of Ogbomosho. All right, those are the headlines there.
And now let's move over to the Punch newspaper. Now, inflation drop. Experts demand lower interest rate. That story is on page 2. Dangote's wealth rises to $24 billion after refineries operations. You can find that story on page 21. Now, Tinubu, Obasanjo, others mourn as Edwin Clark dies at 97. That story is on page 31. Now, the big story. Workers in 109 embassies grown over 6 months on paid salaries. Ministry promises to clear arrears. Ex-envoys kick. Now, when our president travels to these places, how does he look at the faces of the staff that have not been paid for over 6 months? Embassy staff, Nigerian embassy staffs. Oh well, Moses, we'll talk about that during the newspaper review. Now, John Vance, UK agency, invests $40.5 million to expand Nigeria's cocoa industry. I think that's good news. That story is on page 22. Ukraine protests exclusion as US, Russia raise team to end war. You can find that story on page 30. Now, the other headlines. Lagos Assembly says Tinubu's wife not involved in crisis. It's on page 30 of the Punch newspaper. Immigration arrests 40 illegal migrants in Oyo is on page 16. And the Osun crisis, police go after killers. LG poll holds Saturday. That's on page 30, and that's all from the Punch newspaper.
And that's all we can take for now. Join us again as we go all the way at 9 o'clock. We'll go a little deeper into the headlines from the dailies. Lagos, Osun crisis. We won't sit idly by while your regime sets Nigeria on fire. These are the words of Atiku Abubakar as he warns Tinubu. Let's talk about this one right after this break. Join us again.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills 3 things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging 1-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us. Do you want your voice to be heard? Do you know that you matter in the scheme of things? The People's Voice, the show where ordinary citizens take center stage as we discuss the biggest stories that affect you and I. With you in mind, we facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I, from social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more. Tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. People's Voice, Mondays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The People's Voice. Make your voice count.
Well, Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate in the 2023 election, has condemned the recent violence in Osun State, calling it a desperate attempt by the APC to retain power through intimidation. The crisis escalated after gunmen allegedly killed Irewole local government chairman Remi Abbas and 5 others. Atiku accused the Tinubu-led administration of using armed thugs to seize control of local government secretariats and warned against the subversion of democracy. He urged security agencies to remain neutral and uphold the rule of law, praising the people of Osun for resisting intimidation. Atiku emphasized that Nigerians must remain vigilant to protect their democracy. All right, so we have joining us in this conversation right now, we have Blessed Omoigbe Jato, who is Executive Director, Kadosh Initiative for Justice and Environmental Development, and also a political advisor to the UN and Ecowas peace support operations in Nigeria. He joins us virtually from our Benin station. Well, we also have Barrister Darlington Agumo, who joins us right here in Lagos. We also will be going to Oka, where we have a guest joining us as well. We'll let you into the identity of the guest in the course of time. Well, let's welcome Blessed Omoigbe Jato. Welcome to the conversation. Good morning to you. Let's establish communication with you. All right. Well, we have Barrister Darlington in the studio. Barrister, good morning to you. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning, Moses, and how are you?
Very well. Good morning, Barrister.
You're welcome.
All right. In the past few days, we've been following events happening in Osun State. I think we talked about it yesterday because, these events are of major concern to Nigerians, and there's been a death recorded. Lives have been lost. Atiku Abubakar, as a concerned Nigerian, has also chimed in on the matter. And I think the question on the minds of a lot of people is the president. His name has been dragged into this, whether he likes it or not, whether he's involved or not, whether he has given, his party men the go-ahead to do whatever they want to do or not. Bottom line is, his name has been dragged into it because Oyetola is a relative of the president. He's a minister under this administration, and he's been touted as saying that, look, I will use state powers to, get things done my way. Whether or not it is the APC that perpetrated the chaos that we saw, whether or not, we can't really put our fingers to it here because we know that APC members, some of those that died were party members of the APC. and then we also had some people, party members of the PDP. In all of this, this administration and the president has been dragged into this. Now, what do you think the president can do to exonerate himself and restore order? Should he chime in? Should he get involved in what is going on in Osun State directly to restore order?
Thank you, Moses. The president has a responsibility because the buck stops on his table. If there is peace and tranquility in the country, he takes the credits. If we have credible, peaceful, and proper elections, he must take the credit too. So if things are going the wrong way, he should issue the necessary order to the actors involved, especially when somebody is now dropping his name for the wrong reasons. Though in today's paper, I heard him say that the problem in Osun was caused by APC. I think he said something like that. I don't know exactly the paper that said it. Now, it's not enough for you to say it. Take action. Call out the people involved and then issue the necessary order to the police. That is the only way you can now convince me that, yes, you don't like what is going on, no? You don't like the violence, you don't like the brigandage and all that coming from your party. By the time you do this, then people will now say, okay, yes, that means you meant what you are saying. But for you to just make a statement, meanwhile, you have not rendered anybody. You have not taken action to the police to say, come, arrest all the people involved. It means that you are not sincere. Because by now, I expected the police to have arrested the people that killed 5 people from PDP and the person that killed 1 person from APC. I expected that to have been done by now. But we didn't hear anything. That means by Saturday, when the election proper will be conducted, we may experience more killings. That's the truth. We may experience more killings. Because the one that killed on Monday, nobody said anything to them. So the president has a responsibility. The violence during the election, either by election or local government election, is not good for his image. You cannot tell me you're a Democrat and under your watch, things are becoming undemocratic. And you are not saying anything, you are not doing anything. This is not how to get power. Any power you get through this means, I am telling you authoritatively, it will never last. It cannot be sustainable.
All right. Then.
Anything gotten from violence, it will end up in violence. So the president has a responsibility. If the people like him, he didn't even need to campaign for second term. You don't need any violence to get a second term. That's the truth. All these things that people are doing, everybody say it was 2027. What is magical about 2027? We all said the same thing in 2015. At the end of the day, what happened? So violence can never be sustained, no matter how you try. Violence begets violence. If you get anything through violence, can you sustain it through violence? The answer is no. So the president has a responsibility to rein in his party. They are becoming unnecessarily arrogant when it comes to election. Look at what happened in Edo.
Okay.
APC couldn't allow the tribunal to sit in Edo. They had to take it to Abuja. And the person wielding this gun is a no person, is an APC person who couldn't allow the tribunal to sit in Edo. And nobody have read it in.
Barrister, do you have information that he's an
I
APC
said
person?
he is. People said it. What are you saying?
People say
the people in Edo said, I mean, you cannot be carrying gun in the particular area. People will not know you now. Okay. Is it possible?
But we also saw people carrying guns and wearing PDP.
That to confuse you. Yeah, that's to confuse you. Okay. That is to confuse. That's what they do. Yeah, that's to confuse you. Why did they arrest all of them? They should have arrested them so that we not know where they come from. Moses, they should have arrested them. By the time you now profile, you now know which party they belong and where they come from. Okay. But they all do that to deceive the valuable public.
Barrister, the crisis in Osun is precipitated by the oncoming Saturday election. Election. And you said something about assets and liabilities that the president must have to inherit.
Exactly.
If things go good, we say he takes the credit. So when things go wrong, he should also take the credit. Now, I want to talk about election violence. Yesterday, former President Goodluck Jonathan said something. He said he kicks against deployment of military personnel for elections and says only police and INEC should manage future elections. Do you agree with Jonathan, considering the fact that we also have seen police cause more havoc during elections than even the military? You recall what happened in Rivers State during the local government elections. The police authorities withdrew the police personnel from Rivers State, and the election went on peacefully. Was it a one-off, or is it something you think we should, consider towing? Is there a direction you think we should work towards? Bearing in mind that, look, we have seen policemen snatch ballot boxes. We have seen policemen cause mayhem during elections. Should we actually use them?
Good. Moses, your police are acting according to order. Chukuma. They are acting according to order. In this particular force called police force, they obey the last order. During the election, some policemen are selected from all the divisions.
In their thousands.
All the divisions.
Especially one-off elections, off-cycle elections.
They don't just select anybody. They are selected and they are groomed and tutored on what to do. That is the fact. And it is that thing they told them that they are going to display at that polling unit.
Barrister, are you saying that powers that be ask policemen to go and snatch ballot boxes?
Mr. Okoro, again I ask you, if the police are snatching ballot, on whose behalf are they doing it? Are they contesting election? Please tell me. The police, are they contesting election? So who are they working for? Is it not obvious to you that they are working for the power that be, the people in power?
Okay.
They put that working for the
since
opposition.
people in power give them those directives, and we saw an election that there were no policemen, shouldn't we discard the use of policemen and allow INEC to just conduct the elections and go away?
No. The Rivers State example is I can say it is something that is unprecedented. You saw what was going on in Rivers State and all that, and the people came out to defend their vote and all that. So
exactly the point. So why wouldn't people come out in other places to defend their votes?
No, it's not possible. It's not possible. Please.
Why? It happened in Rivers State.
I said it cannot.
Okay.
Rivers State is a one-off thing. If you want to replicate it all over the country, in fact, there will be breakdown of law and order. These talks will take advantage and do damage.
Still staying with the police force, there have been accusations and counter-accusations going against the Commissioner of Police in Osun State, where musician Davido, real name David Adeleke, was basically dragging the commissioner online. Do you think that should be taken lightly on both sides now? What does the law say about publicly accusing an individual who is serving of perpetrating crisis in the state? And if he has any facts or truth to what he's saying, what can he do differently as against just dragging on social media?
In fact, you don't even need to go far, because we saw this hoodlum wedding guns and police were present. Police were present. They saw them. In the first place, remember that the governor, Adeleke, he raised alarm last week that these people are planning mayhem. What should police do at that point? Is it not to move in? Because everybody will say intelligent gathering. They will be there. They won't gather any intelligence until there is crisis. There is violence. At least if you are a proactive police, when you hear a whole governor raising alarm that, look, something is about to happen, as an active police, you move in. You have detectives among you. Go and infiltrate all the places where they are planning this mayhem. Arrest them and then stop whatever they want to do. Because these people are acting according to one fictitious court order, which nobody can verify. As a police, you people say you want to go and take over the local government. On whose order? We have a court order. Please, can we see it? Can we see it? Bring it. Bring the court, let us see. We have to read and verify that yes, you have the power. The court has given you power to go and do what you are doing. Nobody did all these things. Moses, nobody. And the police allowed them on that day to do what they did. And now we have lost 6 human beings. All because of what? Partisanship.
All right.
Okay.
Because if the police were neutral, those people wouldn't have died.
Barrister, talking about Davido, that's David Adeleke, saying what he said, we also understand that he has retracted his statement and more like apologized to the Commission of Police. Do you think he was persuaded or forced to do that?
No.
Considering the fact, does it take away that there wasn't mayhem, that there was mayhem in Osun State?
Maybe the way he put it, because I listened to him, he said that if they are mad, they too they are madder. You know, he was venting his anger, something like that.
No, but what I'm saying is that he also said he was sorry, you know, for the way he.
That was after now.
Do you think he was persuaded to?
Of course,
retract?
yeah. Somebody must have told him to withdraw because he's not a state actor. Okay. Why should he be involved in?
Probably his uncle.
It's not enough. Okay. Look, separate your family from governance. He has no locus to do what he's saying.
All right then.
Because he's not an appointee of the government or whatever. You cannot say because your uncle is in government, therefore, whatever happens, your uncle have enough people to speak on his behalf now. Is that not true?
All right then. Well, let's go to Orca, where Professor Bruno Ibekilu is standing by. He's an expert expert developer and public affairs commentator. Well, good morning to you, Professor Bruno. Good morning to you. Welcome to the conversation. Now, we're talking about events in Osun State. And what are your thoughts, really, when you saw that report, the chaos that took place in Osun State, local government, and then people dying? Also, knowing that all of this, it's basically tussle for power. What were your thoughts, your initial thoughts?
You've said it all when you say that it's basically a tussle for power. Tussle for power, is it a power to be used as an instrument to develop the state? Or is it a power to be used to appropriate the resources of the state to private hands? So it's about trying to encourage what we may consider evil here. The other time somebody was saying something about poverty, leading people to a lot of vices. There is this idea about this where we have that philosophy of poverty. We've not looked at it that way, or even poverty of philosophy. People don't think. Whenever you do certain things in this way, it's obvious it is not for the people of Osun, but for those individuals who want to be powerful. We are orchestrating a weak society through a weak system where people come out in the public to insult the system, showing that they are stronger than the system, indicating weak institutions and powerful individuals. It is not in the interest of the people. It can never be. What is happening in Osun is condemnable. We are looking at taxation. What should be seen as a taboo has been politicized, and we are discussing that, and everybody is keeping quiet. Certain things that call for an alarm. Somebody.
Now let's look at
made a song. Somebody made a song and said that there is fire on the mountain and nobody seems to be running. And that is what we are having in Nigeria today. So we need to start querying the process, the electoral process that throws up these people that does this and.
All right, that's exactly what we are doing, querying the process and the events that are happening. Now let's query the role of the judiciary in all of this, the different judgments that have come out and the interpretation of it that have led to local government chairmen coming back to office shortly before scheduled elections. Let's query that. What is the role of the judiciary in all of this?
The judiciary has surprisingly disappointed us. You look at the assessment made by the Nigerian agency, that's the agency of the state in Nigeria, Nigerian government. The judiciary has now topped the police as one of the most corrupt institutions in the country. And if judiciary, as expected, should be the last hope of the common man, and an agent of the government is telling us that the judiciary has become the most corrupt institution in Nigeria. So that leaves us with a clear information that we may not be expecting justice from that center of justice, because what has happened over the years with our political decision, our tribunal decisions in the tribunal shows that there is a lot to be desired. There is less. We see rulings, judgments coming from the judiciary that indicating that there is need for worry. The process of even recruiting those judges. Look at what a former governor has been accused, who is now a minister, how he has his way around the judiciary. We see where people use office of magistrates and judges to compensate family members and then perpetuate family tie on the bench, where we go to seek justice. So we have a problem that we cannot we can't just try to pencil into specific issues. We have a problem that requires a holistic system overhaul.
Yes, very.
So
quite
let's not
holistic.
be expecting too much from the judiciary.
All right, Professor Ibekilo, let me stay with you. You said something about raising alarm, and practically that's what Atiku Abubakar has done. Atiku Abubakar, former presidential candidate of the PDP in the 2023 general election, and in a very terse statement, he said, "Look, President Bola Tinubu will not sit idly by and watch you set this country on fire." And he's also said something. He said, well, that Nigerians must remain vigilant to protect their democracy. Like we normally say that, look, internal vigilance is the price, for liberty and all of that. Professor, do you think that Nigerians have done enough to protect their democracy? And if they have not done enough, what do you think Nigerians should do to ensure that they protect this hard-earned, hard-won democracy that we take for granted at this moment?
Sincerely, Nigerians have worked enough to get this democracy in the first place. To get the democracy in the first place, we've done that. Surprisingly, the president we are having today, we are part of the people that fought for this democracy under the umbrella of NADECO. We all know what happened to them, how some of them ran away from the country, so that because he who fights another will live to fight another day. We've really worked hard to get this democracy on board. That may account for why we have to collaborate with the military by way of picking those retired military generals to become our first presidents after democracy, But now, we haven't gotten to where we are today. We need to continue to fight. The institutions we would have used to protect the democracy, which is the legislature, you and I have seen what is happening there. Our representatives in these assemblies seem to be representing themselves, and you see that they, like I said earlier, the process of getting into that power requires a lot of funding, and once they get there, they try to create the channels through which compensation can be made. Maybe you can call it creating a refund system to what was spent to bring them on board. Then again, we as a people must continue to engage like we are doing now, must continue to be more vocal about this. A lot of things have gone so bad. Yes,
Prof. Before we leave you, I want to ask you this question: who should take responsibility for the rot in our country? Is it our representatives or is it the people? Do you think that Nigerian people have done enough, to hold their representatives to account? If you consider what is going on in the National Assembly, I mean, bills are passed without records to the people, so many infractions, and nobody's career has been damaged. Nobody has come out to say, look, we are trying to recall this member of this representative back. We haven't heard anything like that. Do you think that Nigerians are just, is it more like talk is cheap and there is no action? Like people coming out to say, like they did in South Korea, look, you have to go back to that place, sit and do something. Have we done that in this country? Have we done enough? Have we even done that, not to talk of doing enough, to hold our representatives to account?
I don't even think we have started talking about of doing enough. If you remember what happened in Indonesia during the days of Suharto, the Indonesian students rose up. Like you said in Hong Kong, the youths rose up. In Nigeria, those youths you are expecting, the events of NSAS and how these same youths we are used to destabilize, create disharmony and kill that consciousness is an eye opener to us. So we need to start re-engineering a society, creating consciousness among our youths. A country where close to 70% of us are less than 35, and still such a thing is going on and people are keeping quiet. Today we are talking of youths who are now so conscious of affluence, money conscious. How do we, everybody's interested in making money, because again, we have been disconnected so much from government. So we really need to start creating more avenues of engagement, especially with the youths, because these are our future, to really even to threaten to recall. And again, you look at the concern, again, the process of recall. Those who created that process, I think they did it in a way to protect themselves too. You go to most states, for you to recall even a member of the state assembly, the process you will go through. So
Cumbersome
we
indeed.
need a
Cumbersome
holistic
process.
overhaul, and
Cumbersome
we must
process,
start
yes.
at some point to move it.
And some will say revisiting the Constitution is, the way to start, the place to start from. Anyway, thank you very much, Professor Bruno Ibekilo. Thank you very much for your thoughts, but we'd like you to stay with us. We'll come back to you shortly. Let's go over to Benin, where Blessed Omoigbe Jator is standing by. His Executive Director, Kadosh Initiative for Justice and Environmental Development, and also a political advisor to the UN and Ecowas peace support operations in Africa. Good morning to you. Welcome to the conversation. Great to have you join us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was very loud. Well, great to have you join us this morning. Now, we're talking about Osun State, and the professor that just finished speaking touched on the issue of funding. Funding in our democracy. Well, democracies all over the world requires funding, but we see how some of these funds are gotten in some parts of the world. Individuals will step up. Individuals with credible source of income will step up and say, look, I am funding this campaign. But in our own case, anonymous individuals purchase forms, and then anonymous individuals, basically control whoever emerges at the end of the day, and we deal with the issue of godfatherism and the rest. It brings me to, ask the question of making electoral positions a little less attractive. What do you think we should do differently to ensure that these positions are a little less attractive and bring those that are elected to make them feel like the people, like they're part of the people? Just in the United States, very recently, former Vice President Kamala Harris was seen attending a football game in the midst of the audience, in the midst of the crowd, like everybody else. She wasn't seated somewhere else. She was just out there like everybody else, mingling. We've seen congressmen and women use trains to and from work over there in other climes, but in Nigeria, it's a different ballgame entirely. And to even get into that position, one would need to cough out a lot of money. Well, that's quite an elaborate one. But what are your thoughts on this? Funding, especially.
All right. If you can hear me, thank you very much. You see, I have constantly emphasized the fact that our electoral process is the way it is because of the emphasis we place on things that are not supposed to have those kind of emphasis. Now, if you check our electoral laws, there are regulations on how elections should be funded, at what scale certain funding should go. But the fact is, we have not had the will to implement those aspects of the electoral laws. And as long as we do not have the will to implement it, certain things will continue the way they are. And again, Nigeria, we are a very sentimental people. The electoral offices are seen as high heaven, and that is because of the value, the sentiment we attach to these offices, the way we glorify. When we begin to see elective and appointive offices as opportunity to serve, where we balance the level of value we place on them. But in Nigeria, it is a common perception that once you attain certain political offices, you have become a demigod. A demigod.
Well, unfortunately, we seem to have a network glitch there. We lost out a few things that you said.
So you see that people do all kind of things.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So when we begin to place our priority right, when elected public office holders, we see them as public servants. They see themselves as public servants. It will naturally balance certain things. Again, when it comes to funding, we should go back to the Electoral Act and enforce the relevant section
Well, we seem to be having a network glitch there. We'll get back to Professor Bruno in a short while. We'll wait for that to be rectified, and then we'll get back to him. Let's bring it back to the studio now. Barrister Darlington, I'm going to stay with you on the issue of funding and the Electoral Act. Educate us. What does the Electoral Act say, really? Just educate our listeners on funding, and so people know what to look out for, especially when politicians come out to say, look, my constituents are the ones funding my campaign. People will know where to draw them, call them back and say, no, you don't say this, you say that.
Yeah, Moses, there are electoral laws regarding funding of political parties and their candidates. The unfortunate thing is that nobody is obeying it. I think the presidential election, they say you should not spend more than 10 billion or so. And that of governorship, I think about 5 billion. I don't know whether they have amended it, but the last time I checked, that was the position. Then I think is National Assembly is either 1 billion or 500 or so.
But we know that a lot of these money is going to greasing hands.
Is there?
A lot of these money is going to, greasing people's hands.
That's for campaign, maybe advert and all that, publicity. To sell yourself to the public and all that. If you don't put up yourself in the media, nobody will know who is campaigning and who is contesting. So I think that is the major area where they spend this money. And that's what is supposed to mean. Just for you to, sell yourself to the public. Publicity, PR and all that, it requires money. That's the fact. So, but the question is, are they obeying it? You and I know the answer. And are they sanctioned? You and I equally know the answer. So, we have elected leaders who are above our laws. In fact, it's not as if we didn't know. We know. We know the antecedent, yet we move in. We supported them. We clap for them. We didn't say, this particular man, no, we know your antecedent. You cannot be this or, you cannot be what you are claiming to be. But we still rally around them, especially When they now buy a section of the media, who will now package them and sell them to the public?
That's PR.
Sorry?
That's PR.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying now. You are selling the wrong. It's not as if you didn't know. Like what happened to us in 2023 or so. And it's not as if people didn't know what was going on.
So you're looking at the issue of morality. Is that what you're... Is that...
That is funding. Yes, that is funding. You cannot take it out. When somebody claims that he has used so amount for just primaries, and nobody raised eyebrow, say, how could that be? Moses, as I talk to you today, the mayor of New York is in a very serious problem because of donations they gave him for his election. In fact, the present UK Prime Minister was asked to return £6,000 they gave him. They gave him, he didn't steal it another. They say he should return the money during his campaign and election. They should return it to the government. And he did.
Okay.
So we don't have a mechanism for sanctioning people who have committed infractions against our law. We don't. Especially if they claim that, if they think that you are so big, you are so powerful. You know, that is where this arrogance starts.
Okay.
If we have an institution that will say, no, you cannot cross this particular line, this is where how far we can go. But unfortunately, we have powerful men who have become so big and so strong and so powerful that our laws cannot catch them.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
Our laws cannot catch them.
We are talking about building strong institutions. And
that has been the problem.
Oh, let's go back to Benin, where we have Blessed Jato standing by. Blessed, if you can hear me now, I'd like for you to take this question from me. You belong to the civil society organization. I mean, you are the executive director of Kadesh Justice and whatever. Now, Atiku Abubakar is talking about Nigerians being quite vigilant. And the civil society organizations exist, you know, to mobilize people, to galvanize people around ideas, issues, and when we're talking about electoral reforms and things like that. A lot of people, a lot of Nigerians believe that the civil society organizations have lost the vibrancy, you know, the activism they used to have during the military era that pushed back the soldiers to the barracks. Do you think that civil society organizations have lost it or that they have compromised? Because at this moment, what we just see them is issue press statements, press releases and all of that. There is no mobilization. Do you think that the organization you are constituent, have you been compromised? Hello, Blessed, can you hear me? All right, while we're trying to fix that, let's come back to the studio here where we still have Barrister Darlington. Barrister, when I was asking the question, you were shaking your head. What's your reaction?
My reaction is that it's not as if the people compromise. They believe that we have a democracy. You know, this civil society group and human rights activists, they were very active during the military. Because everybody was saying, we don't want the military. Because they are not supposed to give governance and all that. So that alone galvanized everybody to believe that the military are the demon themselves. That the military are not supposed to be in governance. And so everybody was active, campaigning and protesting against the military. But we have now seen that some civilian regime are even worse than the military.
So is that not enough reason for the activism, the vibrancy to come back?
Good. If you say that, most of those people who were campaigning against the military then, they have joined this same civilian administration, so they can no longer talk.
So they have compromised.
Yes.
All right then.
Especially when some of them have been appointed in some positions.
Okay.
And then they have partisan interests here and there.
All right.
They will not tell you that
okay, thank you, Barrister.
we are trying to manage the situation where they will find a way to deceive the public.
All right.
And that was
thank you very much,
the fall started.
Now let's go back to Oka, where we still have Professor Bruno Ibekilo standing by for us. Professor, I'd like for you to react to this my question. What do you make of the current activism of the civil society organizations. I mean, does it look like they have lost it? We saw what happened during the military. You had the Beko ransom cuties, the Ganefa with me, Innocent Chukuma. We had people like Chimo Bane, Olisa Bakoba, you know, and all of these people. Where are they? They are still, some of them are still here. What has happened? Do you think that they've been bought over? More like compromise? Because we don't see that activism. And the studio guys here said, like, look, it's because you have a military regime, a civilian regime, but that the civilian regime seems to have turned worse than the military. Isn't that enough reason to revive that activism? What's your reaction, sir?
One of the things that encourage the development and evolution of civil society organizations could be what we have that is prevalent then, or what obtains within the system. I would still bring it back to my area, which is economics. When people are hungry, the first thing is to go and look for what to eat and how to bring food to the table. Take your children to school and do fundamentally those basic things first. You can't start networking and collaborating as civil society organizations to query a government or the process of what the government is doing, or charge a system for wrongdoing, when the next person beside you can be bought cheaper than you. So what you are seeing today is not too far away from what obtains in our society. The likes of Chimobani and Abokobas, and then Beko, Ransom Kuti, and all those guys you are talking about, they are being gradually petering away because people are, one, not happy, yes, but the means to pursue the expression of unhappiness has eluded them.
All right. Sorry, Professor. Professor, permit me to butt in at this moment, because you have said something that is quite instructive. People are not happy. People are hungry. So they have to look for a means to survive. Isn't that enough reason for them to come together and say, look, why am I even hungry? Why am I not happy? What is the source? What is the cause of my hunger? What is the source? The cause of my worry? And now they streamline it and pin it down on the government. Isn't that enough reason for the people to mobilize and say, no, enough of this. We can't take it, like Atiku Abubakar has said. As we have seen happen in other parts of the world. I mean, at a certain time in life, French people said, look, we've had enough of this. Russians said the same thing. Americans said the same thing. Even in UK, the Glorious Revolution and all of that. In Tunisia, in 2014 or so, Mohamed Bouazizi, a young man, just said, look, I've had enough of this. He had to self-immolate, and that was what sparked
the Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring. Clearly I'm not calling for that, but I'm just asking, isn't it enough reason that people are angry, that people are unhappy, people are hungry? Isn't that enough reason for them to mobilize and say, look, government, we need changes. We need something better for ourselves? I'm just asking.
Now, the case with Nigeria is one. Those in political offices have successfully weaponized poverty. As you're trying to gather together to pursue that social action as a group or even as an individual, you start to see the group being fragmented, that is trying to buy people up that are on your side. Then the diverse nature of our society, you can hardly see a country that is so diverse like Nigeria, that is at the level of development Nigeria is. The number of ethnic nationalities we have in Nigeria, and even the fragmentation, division among even those ethnic nationalities, like you say that somebody is an Igbo man. Come to Igbo land, you will still see Igbos referring to some other person who is an Igbo as one Soka, one Abakaliki, one Aba, one Gwa. So we still have that division. Sorry,
Professor. The most diverse country in this world is the United States of America. Even in UK, they have this kind of diversity. You have the English, you have the Welsh, you have the Scots. But they live together. They're able to modulate their differences. Why is our own case different? People don't even understand that you have ethnic nationalities in China.
The average welfare level of an average Chinese and an average American is too distinct far from an average Nigerian. Yeah. The person who you're talking about is that person who is multidimensionally poor. And I'm telling you that those in government have created this level of poverty to weaken social cohesion among the people. And again, it has gotten to even, it has generated to political apathy. In every election, go and check the number of registered voters and number of persons who are casting their vote. People are registering to vote just to have a national identity to operate their bank accounts and deal with government. People are becoming so disenfranchised, disenchanted with that thing called government. And as we know, government must be there, but that consciousness, that participation to even rise up against those in government is not there. To even come up to participate to bring up those in government, they've lost so confidence. So what we should be talking about here is, how do we empower the people? The number of graduates we have in Nigeria is increasing on a daily, but that awareness, that consciousness, that zeal to participate in the process is losing, is almost out. An average fresh graduate in Nigeria today wants to just drop his pen and leave Nigeria. People are now moving to Ghana. People are now moving to even Niger Republic. One sefa is about 2.4 naira. So for every one sefa you make there, you are about 2.5%, 150% richer than a Nigerian. So who is fooling who? Our artisans from Togo have gone back to their country. Tomorrow you will see that Nigerians will be deported even from Togo and Benin Republic.
Well, talking about
we are so poor here that we are so poor here that people, that poverty that ought to unite us together.
That is basically the next conversation we'll be delving into. Nigerians, the possibility of Nigerians being deported from Togo and the rest. I hope you can hear me, Professor. I would have loved to take one more question, but I guess I'll leave this for you to drop as your concluding thoughts when the time is right for that. In the meantime, let's take a break from this conversation. Let's go into another conversation now. The issue of Nigeria and its neighbors. The professor really talked about, how Nigerians might be deported, how the CFA now is more valued than the Naira. Well, the new immigration policy, Niger Republic bars Nigerians using Ecowas passport from entering Niger. And we also have situations where if you must enter due to whatever reason, maybe trade, you'll be made to pay a certain amount of money. Some have called it bribery. You'll be made to pay to the officials before you are allowed into Niger. Nigerians into Niger. Let's talk about this when we come back from this break.
All right, then, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, let's get into the second topic of discussion. Niger Republic has begun enforcing new immigration restrictions on Nigerian travelers, barring entry for those using the Ecowas passport without a valid international passport. Now, this follows Niger's withdrawal from Ecowas after a military takeover. Well, despite open borders, officials at key crossings like Ilela Koni are refusing to recognize Ecowas passports, causing difficulties for traders and travelers. Reports indicate that border officials are extorting bribes from those without Niger's new passport. However, trade and movement have not been severely affected yet, and no official ban has been announced. Travelers remain concerned about potential future restrictions. We'll still have in the studio with us here Barrister Darlington Agomo from Lagos, where we broadcast from, and in Oka by Professor Bruno Ibekilo and Mr. Blessed Jato in our Benin station. Gentlemen, thanks for staying with us. Now, Barrister, let me start with you from here. Barrister, Niger is stopping people with ECOWAS passport from getting into their country, despite the fact that there is no official statement to that. Is there a case of corruption, or do you think that it's a way to fly the kite and feel the pulse of Nigeria and other ECOWAS countries about the new restrictions that might come in place? You know there's an alliance of Sahel states, and they have also launched their own passport. Do you think it's something we should worry about, despite the fact that, according to reports, trade has not been affected yet, but looks like with time it's going to happen? What's your reaction?
Thank you, Mr. Kuro. Under international law and even your UN Charter, self-determination is allowed, is enshrined in their status. So a country can decide that, look, I don't want to belong to this bloc. I want to be independent of myself and all that. There's no crime there after all. UK pulled out of EU. They are now doing their own thing. America left the Commonwealth, even though they're a member of British colony. So these things are allowed. It's just that in this part of the country, what is the norm out there is abnormally here, and it has entered into our psyche. When Niger and Burkina Faso and Mali said they are leaving ECO, they had their reasons. Very important reasons that anybody, any right-thinking person should have looked at. Why would you have a colonial master that is breathing down your neck, extorting you, enslaving you, even though you are independent? Very serious issue. I expected ECOWAS leader to say, look, this thing is a problem. France, why should you treat your people this way? Allow them to have real independence, or else we are not going to do any business with you. So when these people waited for ECOWAS, nothing was done and nothing was said, they left. They left, and they gave reason that why should Nigeria, being the leader of ECOWAS, be having business relations with a country that is oppressing them, and they're a member of ECOWAS. It's a contradiction of sorts. So, if ECOWAS have not deemed it fit to look at into the issue that these people are talking about, why would they come back? They have every reason to be on their own. And when you say on your own, yes, you are entitled to it. It's your right as a country.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
Now, the passport issue, yes, because you cannot pick and choose. You know, if you are now an independent nation, you must apply and implement all the things that make you a state of your own. You cannot be a state of your own and you are now using the passport of other nations. It is a contradiction. So I don't see anything wrong with what they are doing.
Okay, but Barrister, should Nigeria as a country be worried, considering that our neighbor, next door neighbor, we've done a lot for them, Niger. I understand that we even supply them electricity and things like that. Now, Trump started it, by trying to take out, immigrants, undocumented immigrants from America, and we understand that about 201 Nigerians, some of them convicts, who are already serving in U.S. prisons, are going to be returned to Lagos, Nigeria. And we have also had issues where South Africa had to say, look, though unofficially, the people said, Nigerians, please leave our country for us and all of that. We also see the backlash that Nigeria gets from places like Ghana, trying to raise fees, to increase fees, payable by Nigerians away from what other nationals do. Do you think that we also hear that the federal government is trying to bring back over 100,000 Nigerian refugees scattered all through Africa? Should Nigeria be worried that, look, this thing is happening to the supposed giant of Africa? And what should we do, to push back that narrative?
When you are a weak nation in international politics,
weak nation, the giant of Africa is a weak nation?
No. Look, this giant thing, please, let us not dwell so much on it. You are not a giant of Africa, you know it. You cannot be a giant and your economy is in this sorry state. You cannot be a giant and you are borrowing money right, left, and center. You cannot be a giant and the terrorists are sharing governance with you. I mean, all the indices are there that you are not a giant. Maybe you were, but I get them before no be property. Now, let's leave that apart. Why is Nigeria suffering all this embarrassment? Because we have lost it. Moses and Okoro, you were here when we are shouting for good governance because it has a wider implication. When you have a strong nation, the respect you get alone will attract so many things to you. When you're a strong nation, people will be pestering you to do business with you, to do things with you, to even help you and do things and all that. But when you are a weak nation, the reverse is the case. That is what happened. So in international politics, no, there's no sympathy. There's no sympathy. That's what is happening. And that is what Donald Trump wants to reverse in the case of America. Because under these Democrats, both Obama and Biden, America was losing it to China, to other nations. That was why Donald Trump came to reverse all this thing. In Nigeria, are we making effort? The answer is no. So the people of Niger, why they even took that decision, remember, under Buhari, they were becoming almost a vassal state to Nigeria. They were in charge. At a point, we are thinking that they are part of Nigeria. Because during our election, people from Niger will come here to campaign and vote for some people. Okay. How does that make you feel? All right. So all this is what made the Nigerian person say, look, enough of that thing. We are an independent nation. We should determine our destiny. Okay. So when Nigeria have lost it, please don't blame anybody for insulting you. All right. Then. Thank you very much, Barrister Darlington. Well, we'll still have Professor Bruno on standby and Blessed Jator. But let me go to Benin, where Blessed Jator is standing by. I do believe that the connection issue has been rectified and we can hear you smoothly and clearly now. Now, yes, good to see your face again. Now, talking about Nigeria and Niger, don't you think Nigerians are thinking too highly of themselves, asking, Nigerians with Ecowas passport not to enter, and for them to enter, you have to pay a certain amount of money, seeing that we do a lot of exports to Niger, really. We export a lot of dairy products and, a few other things, minerals. There's even a train that runs from Nigeria to Niger, built by Nigeria. Are they thinking too highly of themselves? And let's bear in mind, Niger is a landlocked a place.
No, I do not think they are thinking to have themselves. I just think Nigeria, we are belittling ourselves. That is the appropriate narrative. Now, in the international law, it is dog eat dog. There is no morality in the international system. The national system is not ruled on the principle of morality and sentiment. That is one thing that have been our problem in Nigeria over the years. Now, this issue of being the giant of Africa, no, we have not really been the giant. We have think too highly of ourselves. And while we are thinking too highly of ourselves, we have allowed morality and sentiment to regulate our relations with other countries, which is not applicable in other places. What Niger just simply did is to step into the realization that it is dog eat dog. It is survivor of the fittest. What we have seen in Nigeria over time, which I want to draw our attention to, is the fact that our foreign policies have been deeply rooted in Father Christmasism. We have done Father Christmas to every nation we can at every opportunity we can. And there is nowhere in the world where that is invoked, where you throw things around like we did to the same Niger, like the investment that the Buhari government made in Niger. At the end of the day, what does Nigeria stand to gain from all of the investment? You can argue it back and forth, but all over the world, before a country invests anything in you, they invest with the mind of what are we getting back? Because it is not on the basis of morality, but on the basis of self-interest. Nigeria have never at any time put their interest
are the front burner. So what we have done is we have done Father Christmas to everybody. And when you continue to do that, number one, you weaken yourself and you continue to lose respect. What we are simply saying right now is a country that have lost his international respect and prestige. And as long as we continue on this path of sentiment and morality, you know, as African, as Nigerian, we are very religious and moral people, and we bring that into governance. And once you bring morality into governance, you lose your negotiating power and your ability to meander in the anarchical state of international relations. So what we have seen, if Niger say they are banning Ecowas passport, am I surprised? No, really, I'm not surprised. I have seen this coming from the very moment they decided they were going to leave the ECOWAS bloc. I knew things like this were going to eventually emerge. But what we should be looking at as a country is to strengthen our internal institutions and structure, strengthen our governance structure as a way of reclaiming our prestige. See, if Niger can do this, every other country. I like the fact that you just mentioned a while ago that more than 100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Jato, permit me to stay with you on this. I like the fact that you talked about morality several times. Government is playing morality, international. There's no morality in international relations and all of that. There's something I want to bring to your notice. I don't know if you have seen the papers today. I have it before me here, the Punch newspaper. The major headline, the big story is that workers, Nigerian workers in 109 embassies grown over 6 months unpaid salaries. 109 embassies grown under over 6 months unpaid salaries. Nigerian workers. Now, last year, our president spent 36 billion naira on foreign trips. What is the morality in that? Can you help us understand? If you say that our government is playing morality in international relations.
No, let's also now balance, before I give a direct answer, let's now balance the issue of morality, internal morality, and lack of political will to do the right thing. What we have simply seen is the fact that when we go outside, we want to appear good and we do Father Christmas. When we are dealing with our own people internally, we stifle them, we hoodwink them, we weaponize everything we can to subject and subjugate them. These are two different things. Now, in the international circle, we operate on the basis of morality. Within Nigeria, we operate on the basis of greed and ineptitude. When government now, your foreign embassies and your diplomatic circle, they are the front runner of every country. They are the one that help to oil the wheel of international relations. When you begin to owe them months and backlog of salary, these are people who, if nobody else is paid, they ought to even be paid first because of the strategic role they play in the life of every country. Now, when you are owing them, it also means that their attitude towards international relations in dealing, in implementing your foreign policy in whatever country or in whatever dimension they represent, there will also be this feet dragging attitude. And at the end of the day, it goes to play on how other people treat you. For example, we have seen cases where Nigerians are arrested in other countries. If you arrest an American, the whole American structure want to be involved. Why is this person arrested? Has this person legally broken your laws? Is this person arrested unjustly? How do we repatriate this person? Is it possible for this person to serve their term in our country? But in Nigeria, when things happen to our nationals, when things happen to our citizens all over the world, our foreign ministries seems to turn blind eyes to it. And again, you will not blame them. Like you have mentioned, you will look at the motivation. What kind of motivation do these people even have to carry out their job? It's not enough to carry the name, I work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or whatever. What motivation do these people even get in comparison with their colleague in other countries? These are the many things we look at. So internally, we have seen this level of government ineptitude and turpitude. But once we go out, we want to maintain this lie we have been telling ourselves that we are the giant of Africa. And to maintain that status, we just throw things around, do Father Christmas. We've seen cases where even the Nigerian buying vehicles for them to do their election. We've done that to several countries.
All right.
And at the end of the day, you ask this investment.
That brings me to another question, but I would like you to respond to it. But let me first take this question to Professor Bruno, who is standing by. Let's go to Professor Bruno now, and then I might just come back to you and take your response to this question. Well, from the analysis of Blessed Jato, it shows that Nigerian political elite are two-faced. You know, they put up a front in the international community amongst Nigeria's neighbors and put up a different front in dealing with Nigerians whom they seem to derive pleasure subjecting and, demeaning. But anyway, looking at this relationship with Niger now, this is to Professor Bruno. Looking at our relationship with Niger, how can Nigeria save its face, seeing that its passport, which is the Ecowas passport, is currently not being accepted in Niger? What should Nigeria do, knowing fully well? I mean, the thoughts on the lips of a lot of Nigerians is that if we decide, okay, first off, what is the role of border closure? What impact did that have in this relationship? And we also know that if we choose not to import the things that we get from Niger, cattle, goats, and the rest of them, and choose not to export the things that we export to Niger, dairy products, minerals, chemicals, and the rest, it would affect the populace in that country. It would affect Nigerians. And it might affect them more than it would affect Nigerians. What can Nigeria do at this point to stamp its foot in the ground and say, look, don't mess with us? Well, you might need to unmute because we can't hear you.
I'm okay here.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I said the Nigerians must have considered all this before coming up with the decision. Then you ask yourself, in international relations or you look at economic integration among countries, you find out that integration among poor countries that have low level of intra-regional trade does not really yield anything. And that is why economic integration is now coming up like what we have with something like BRICS, where countries that are not geographically affiliated become integrated economically. So what the Nigerian government is doing is to show us that they can do without us. They are trying to make a statement that they can do without us. But fundamentally, when somebody says that they are no longer members of Ecowas, you don't expect them to allow you come into their country with that Ecowas passport. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have made a statement that they are creating a new bloc, that they don't want to have anything to do with Nigeria. They have looked at that. They are landlocked, yes, but there are they may have seen or generated other means of thriving without Nigeria, or knowing that they can pursue that interdependence with Nigeria, but not on the platform of being members of the same economic bloc. They need Nigeria to grow. Nigeria need them to grow. Presently, Nigeria is the fastest growing economy in Africa and about the third fastest growing economy in the whole world. That's the same poor Nigeria we are talking about. So Let's stop living in the past. Countries have started evolving and moving on to greater heights, and Nigeria, we are still feeling that big, like somebody said, the giant of Africa. Today we are number 4 in Africa, even with the biggest population and large productive, what do you call it, young population that is becoming unproductive. So the government of Nigeria know what they are doing. What we will come out of it is what we are yet to see. But I'm expecting that given their growth prospects, they are going to attract a lot of international financing and investors will move there. You saw what happened in Nigeria in the past. At the point we had Ghana must go, and Ghanaians were almost forced out of Nigeria. Today you go to Ghana, we are seeing Nigerians must go. Go to South Africa, we're talking about xenophobic attack against Nigerians. Why are Nigerians running away from Nigeria to go and develop and grow other economies? Because our government and those in political power have institutionalized a process of keeping us perpetually poor so that we'll be dependent and we'll be weak to fight them. What we are seeing in Niger, you will expect to see it in other safer zone countries in West Africa. Those Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, they now come down to our neighbors in the west, Togo, Benin Republic, Ghana, up till Abidjan. We should be expecting to see such hostilities coming up in the near future against Nigeria, because that big brother we've always been, they've seen that we are now empty, and they may start to look at other bigger economies in Africa to fill that gap, which we are no longer feeling as that, because our economy has been bastardized, if I may say, by our politicians, and we are there watching. Very soon, our Nigerians will start to become houseboys in Niger Republic and the Republic. So we need to start.
That would be very pathetic. That would be very pathetic for Nigerians to become house boys in Niger. That would be very pathetic. But we know that Nigerians are already doing house boy or domestic chores in places like Libya.
Yes.
Nigerians are already doing that, and quite an unfortunate one, I must say. But it's our reality. Now, let me start with you on this one before I go back to Blessed Jator. Now, you talked about Niger becoming one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. That's a fact, especially as put forward by AFDBA. Now, we see that they were projected to be fastest growing economy in 2024, right after the military came into power. What is the problem with democracy in Africa, seeing that democracy hasn't seemed to work for Africans in Africa as against military rule? Should we return to military rule? Should we redefine the democracy that we practice and maybe have some sort of military involvement in it, some sort of as a way of moving Africa forward? Nigeria now as a case study.
I remember as a little boy, I remember when Augustus Ikomo, the guy who was coming up second in command to IBB, was telling one American envoy that democracy in Africa must not be like democracy in America. Our core values as Africans, our system, our traditional values as Africans has never been democratic. We have a system where once the father of the house says something, everybody falls in line. Once the elder says something, everybody falls in line. Once the Igwe or Eze says something, everybody falls in line. It's only in Africa that we worship a foreign god. Most of us here do that. We worship a Western god, and then they now call our own African traditional religion, which some of us here ignorantly believe that once you ascribe to that or get yourself involved in that, you're going to a place called hellfire. So, and we have accepted Western values, their education, and also their system of government, which we now call democracy. So I think, and if you look at it, most countries of the world where development and growth has spiked fast are not practicing that Western democracy. When the Asian tigers were coming up, most of them were not in a clear or pure Western democratic government. The Asian tigers, if you can remember. Now, today, what is happening in Africa? These countries in West Africa that are not practicing that Western democracy seems to be growing faster. So, like you and I know, we now have to start looking at that thing called democracy. It's an instrument of waste. The Western democracy we have adopted is an instrument of waste. Look at the size of America and their bicameral legislative nature. And that is what Nigeria is practicing. The amount of money we spend in our National Assembly today will tell us that we need to start coming together, start thinking about changing the face of democracy in Africa to suit Africa. I was talking in a public lecture where we are talking about finding African solution to African problem, as advocated by one of the leaders, by Nkrumah or who. And we are waving back that aside. Practically, countries around here that are not doing the kind of democracy we are doing, as we have copied from the West, are doing better economically. And it is, somebody say they play, they show. It's playing out, and we are seeing it.
All right, then.
So this bogus democratic system which we have adopted is not working again. It's not working again, and we have to look at it. Why is it that when we had the parliamentary system, Nigeria seemed to be doing better? What we keep on doing in Nigeria is to keep on going back. We've gone back to the old national anthem. They say we are now going to go back to the regional system of government. We must start to query and redefine, like you said, redefine democracy, engineer an African democracy that will be suited to African problem, solve it, because on the social contract, what government is there, or what we expect from the government, is to do for the people what they cannot do for themselves. So the process of governance must change to suit to be that can solve the people's
All right, thank you very much, Professor Bruno. Thank you very much for your thoughts there. Let me take you back to Blessed Jato now. I'm going to ask you that same question. Africa's democracy, the democracy practice in Africa, should we jettison it and adopt something else? Should military be allowed to come back and probably give us better development, improve economy, before we talk about doing democracy again? Now, I would like you to have that, because we're running out of time. You could respond to that. And the question I wanted to ask you earlier was on the leadership style of politicians in Africa. You know, you said we put up a front outside the foreign policy. We put up a front in the public, in outside, and then we do something else to Nigerians. Is it an issue of Nigeria's foreign policy or an issue of previous leaders? We saw that Buhari, who was a former president, aligned himself more with Niger and brought development to Niger than some other parts of the northern parts of Nigeria. Now, let's have you react to both in about 2 minutes or maybe less.
Please start by saying it is an issue of having leaders who do not understand what it means to run a foreign policy, seizing the saddle of leadership and attempting to run a system they do not understand. I think that is the first identified problem why we have this kind of two front. Again, the issue of individual flaws and character also plays another important role. So it is not just a question of our foreign policy, it is a question of the people that are managing this foreign policy. Because in the purpose of a state, like I have mentioned earlier, state work on the basis of self-interest, not on morality. And Nigeria is not putting their interests ahead because their leaders do not understand the dynamics of playing the game of international relations. Having said that, on the issue of democracy, I totally align with what Professor has said. I have constantly argued that democracy is not in our culture. And that is why it is not working for us. We have a system where we hold on tightly to what has been given to us without assessing the workability of it. Democracy is not working. It's not our thing. It is alien to us. It was forced on us, and there have not been any deliberate attempt to even understand and master the process. We are just flowing with the tide as it comes without doing anything to either come at par with the process or redefine the process. Honestly speaking, when you talked about military regime, I am a fan, without apology. I am a fan of military regime. And I'll tell you why. Look across Nigeria. Most of the roads we are still patching today were done in the 60s and 70s under military decrees. Look at the roads that your current democratic leaders are building. Within 4 years, within at maximum 6 years, the roads are riddled with potholes. Now, if the military regime worked for us, why don't we even look at it and see how we can get the merit out of it? Not necessarily convoking another military coup, but look at how did that system work? How can we blend the military regime and the democratic regime to bring out something that is unique to us as a people?
All right then. Thank you very much, Blessed Omoigbe Jato, Executive Director, Kadosh Initiative for Justice and Environmental Development, and also Political Advisor to the UN and Ecowas Peace Support Operations in Africa. Thanks for your time and your thoughts. Let's quickly run to Oka, where Professor Bruno Ibekilo is standing by. Let's have your concluding thoughts in 30 seconds, please, if you can.
I will conclude by trying to urge our youths to be more politically conscious, be more social conscious. Let us encourage them to generate the capacity to query the political process and get more involved. And ask our government to please find ways to look at the people and see how they are suffering. Look at the people suffering
and attend to the needs of the people.
Make the economy grow.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Bruno Ibekilo, economic expert, development and public affairs analyst. Thanks for your time and your thoughts as well. We'd like Blessed Jato to stay with us as we go into newspaper review shortly. Barrister Darlington, let's have your concluding thoughts now.
Yeah, Moses. There is nothing wrong with the democracy. It's just that the actors choose to do the wrong things. After all, when we are comparing notes, please, are you telling me that there are no country in Africa where democracy has worked? We liberated South Africa from apartheid yesterday, and look at where they are. Because they choose to do the right thing. When Jacob Zuma wanted to misbehave in office, South Africans, ANC, they went to drag him out of office and prosecuted him. And today he had left that party. And Jacob Zuma was a hitman for ANC during the apartheid regime. So it's about you, an individual. We have been choosing the wrong leaders and we are blaming the system. Moses, if we choose the right people, things will work. After all, it worked before. Moses, it worked before. Why is it not working now?
Thank you very much.
That's the question. Yes, the people will copy this. If they are even trying to hone it, there's no perfect system, but you continue to improve on it. In our own case, we are going back.
That's the big question we'll continue to ask ourselves. Thank you very much, Barrister Darlington Agumo. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Well, that's it on the show today. That's it on VOP this morning. But newspaper review comes up shortly. On behalf of our guest and the backroom staff, I am Moses Humphrey, wishing you a beautiful day.
And I am Chukwuma Okoro. Enjoy the rest of your day.